Hey y'all, this is Blazing Diamond Rose. I guess this is gonna be I'm gonna try to make this new start of a new mini series. I'm going to entitle this one When God Does Not Remove the Thorn. The subtitle of it is called Kicking the Hornet's Nest, the Covering, and the HoneyPots. So, as you know from the little series I had before, You Are Not Alone, where I was talking about spiritual warfare, talking about spiritual hosts of wickedness, talking about combating these the arsenal, the spiritual arsenal and physical arsenal that the world and these demonic entities have against us with our faith, through exercising our faith daily. Exercising our faith, not exercising demons, exercising our faith, right? These demonic entities are an agency. As I spoke of before, their sole purpose, or their sole given purpose, is anarchy. They're not necessarily atheists, because they still have to still fall under and have to follow God when God executes his authority over them, especially through us or directly. They have to abide by it. They have no other choice. They know they're inferior to him. But the only advantage they get over us is when they're able to deceive us of our authority with God as his children, right? And so, yeah, it's when they deceive us out of who we are, how like they did Adam and Eve, how the serpent came over there, the Satan came over there in the form of the serpent in the garden and snuffed them out of their authority by making them think, convincing them, persuading them, throwing ideas at them or suggestions at them that were evil and malicious, meant to entice them and snare them into thinking that they were lacking, that they didn't have, that God didn't give them more than enough, that they didn't have everything that they could possibly need or want, right? And it was all good, it was perfect, it was untainted. It didn't become tainted and imperfect until they began to doubt the Lord and put faith in the enemy, put faith in this strange being that crawled up on them or walked up on them. Well, yeah, he had to walk up on them at first, right? And then just, spit game to them, you know what I mean? And made them think, just spit game to them, seduce them, right? And to approach their pride, their greed, and whatnot. Anyway, so again, this the focus on this video is going to be about, like I said, when God doesn't remove the thorn, kicking the hornet's nest, the covering, and the honeypots. So we're talking about when God doesn't remove the thorn, right? Seems like onslaught after onslaught after onslaught, bombardment of like, why do these things just won't go away? You're praying, you're trying to do what's right, you're trying to exercise your faith. It just seems no matter what you do, these things seem to linger. They're stalking you, either in the dreams or in these gang stalking skits and scenarios, where they're trying to make you paranoid and constantly looking over your shoulder, where you can't even focus on what you're doing because these demonic entities are trying to manifest in the flesh through both you and the people around you. Yeah, so it's like, what the heck is this? And you keep praying and praying, and things don't seem like to go away, right? Or things seem to get worse. But for my particular situations, it only gets worse the more attention you put on it, right? The more you try to avoid these things. They're more aggravated. They're aggravated and offended by the word. I'm watching these patterns of these things that happen. The more I pray, the more I try to get closer to my family, reconcile relationships with different members of my family, or just with myself in general, with things I want to do. The more specific, the more vicious, the more malicious, the more vile, the more horrific these attacks are, both in the spirit realm and mostly in the spirit realm, and then they try to manifest in the physical realm, but they can only do so much, because I exhibit my authority by focusing on my faith, by trying to ignore these things. That's what we're called to do. And what I mean by called to do is because they have to try to, these things aren't as bold all the time in the physical realm, right? They only get bold when they think they have isolated you. They think they've broken you down. They think that you have no support in the physical or in the spiritual, right? They think, oh, this person is all by themselves. Oh, it's all of us against so-and-so and so-and-so, right? This little peon over here that they might that might see us as, right? Because what does it talk about in the Bible? It said family members will be against family members. Communities will be against communities, right? Wars and rumors of wars. So when they think they keep stirring that pot up, so to speak, right? It's like they think they have a stronghold on you. But we are called to tear down those strongholds, not carnally. And what do they use mainly? Carnal. They use carnal weapons. Carnal weapons of like Jerry Springer type crap. So like Maury Povich type crap. Like, what are they trying to do? You know what I'm saying? What type of drama are they trying to cause, ignite? I mean, it's just the most, again, you know what I'm saying? Just think about that for a minute. It's all carnal. And then when you know it's all carnal, what does God's word say? It has no authority over you. None. Unless you feed into it. You give into it. You start acting the way they do. You know what I'm saying? Then you feed into these games and these illusions. These staged arguments, right? These staged scenes where people are trying to get your attention. And it's just a scene to get your reaction, get your energy. They're energy drainers. How they can get your energy and focus, because they know you got cameras in your eyeballs. But for some reason, these people think they can be stars. And when I mean stars, just what are they after? A stage, right? These things are constantly trying to draw your energy, but the thing is for no good thing. And then some of them, as I said before, they're refinery. They're buffers. They truly are buffers, right? But you won't know. And it's not your job exactly to know and try to distinguish. It's your job to maintain who you are. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to figure out everybody else, but know who you are definitively and be consistent in that. Because these things, as I said, whether they're on zombie mode or they're actors, they can switch up anytime. They can be broke down. You don't have time to be worried about, oh, it's that one on the switch or this one and be that one. You need to be you, who God is calling you to be. And the important thing is to remember that this is a thorn in your flesh to keep you from being conceited, keeping you from lifting yourself up, whatever revelations, whatever experiences you feel you're going through, and not idolize yourself or not seek to be idolized. Not that you need to be look at yourself as down in the dumps and crap or need to treat people that way, but it helps keep you it's like them goads. Like what did Jesus say to Saul, right? When Saul was on the way to Damascus. Now Saul had been vicious. We're not talking about King Saul. We're talking about the Saul that became Apostle Paul. He became one of the greatest apostles ever. And he wrote like how many books in the New Testament? His writing is so eloquent. It was like he has such a I don't know how to describe his personality, but he's just like you want to listen to him, you want to hear him. He just his words, how he speaks, just demands respect. But I mean but he was a fierce Pharisee. He was a fierce scholar. I mean, how he pursued Christians because in the beginning, because he believed that Christians were against God. He believed Christians were blasphemous, right? So he persecuted them, right? He hunted them down. One of the first martyrs that he witnessed and supported the death of was Stephen. When Stephen was being chased and stoned by a group of villagers, right? Because they didn't like what he said. He was telling them, and he was telling them about themselves. About what the heck did he say? Let me check that right quick. Why did they stone him? Right, he's considered one of the first martyrs, although, he came after the Jesus' disciples. But yet, for some reason, he's considered one of the first disciples. I think that was after the church was supposed to have been founded. But yet, it's amazing because it's before Paul was even Paul. It was while he was still Saul. And he was stoned to death, but yet, that's another thing about him. He was stoned, but yet, he was so focused on Jesus. Yes, it said that it was a group of Sanhedrin or Jewish councilmen, right? They rallied against him because they believed he was being openly blasphemous, by contradicting their rule, right? Contradicting what they were saying, right? And exhibiting his unwavering faith in Jesus. I mean, they were really upset, right? It talks about that in the book of Acts, right? I mean, he really went in on them and stuff, and so they couldn't take that and decided to stone him to death. But what's his name? Paul. Before he was Paul, he was Saul. And he was young in that, it said a young Saul was standing on the sideline while Stephen was on the ground being stoned. They were smashing rocks and crap into his face and stuff. But while they were smashing rocks into his face, he was looking up into the heavens, to the sky, and praying to God, and just awestruck by the Lord and praying to the Lord to take him up. You know what I mean? But what was I saying was that as we know, it says in Acts 9 that originally He was so vicious. He was a vicious persecutor of Christians, right? He said he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was of the tribe of Benjamin. He was of one of the last ones. But yet, Jesus struck him down while he was on the way to the road of Damascus. Struck him blind. He was blinded by light. And Jesus was like, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Right? It was Acts 9:4. Right? And Saul was taken aback. And Saul was... Jesus had left such a great impression on him in commandments that he was never the same. It was a complete 180. But yet, when reading the scriptures of Saul, in particular, went on about how he was beaten and stoned and starved and put in prison, and he had this thorn in his flesh that he prayed to God 3 times on more than one occasion for the Lord to take away. But the Lord said he wasn't going to take it away. He said his grace was sufficient enough. His grace was sufficient in his weakness. His power is made perfect in his weakness. Right? So I want to talk about that. Right? I want to try to go in on that a little bit, right, from my experience, right? Now, if you believe that you're a Christian, let alone you're a persecuted Christian or a targeted individual, you may think, like you said, that, or feel that you've been bombarded with all this crap, all this tribulation, all this fiery trials. But he said not to be surprised by it, because we already been warned by it. It comes with the territory of these times, of these refining fires, this media saturation, right? Or you feel like, or seems like the world revolves around you, but not in a good way, like you're infamous, like you're the scum of the earth. But even if it's in your own mind, or seems that in your own mind, your dreams, you cannot play into that. You know, we have to exercise our faith. And that's what these things are about. But they're not going to just go away because they've been hardened. Right? God already knows our hearts, our truest desires, like he knew Judas and he knew Peter. Right? And he knew the woman at the well, right? And he knew Nathan and Bartholomew and Philip. He already knew them before he picked them out. He saw them under the fig tree, right? He already knew their truest desires, their truest hearts. He already knows our potential, right? But he knows when you truly have a preference for what is right and good, or want to be reconciled to be what's right and good because that's what you truly want, or that you're somewhere on the borderline, or you have no interest whatsoever of truly reconciling or returning him. You want to be able to feel like you God, you some idol, like you some comic book character. Like you want to do whatever, you know? So he truly knows the roots of our ideologies about ourselves and about each other, right? And if we repeatedly keep those patterns, he has shown in his word what he does for people, whether they be against him or for him, that he'll eventually give them to those things, right? He'll eventually give over us to what is good. If we continue to seek and prefer what is evil or grimy or sinful, he'll eventually give us over to that. So what does that have to do with the thorn in our flesh, right? Well, the difference is we're all in a thorn. We're all in a fiery, but we have a different perception of it because God's trying to feed our faith through it. He's trying to temper us as he's trying to enable us to push through, right? Where these other things, don't actually really care where they're at. They're not seeking him. As Jesus said, if you're looking for me, let these others go. They're not looking for him. They're not seeking him out. He's not their target. He's not what they want. They want us. And why do they want us so bad? They're not human. Remember, we war not against flesh and blood. They want to merge with us. They want to germinate. They want to incubate within us. They want to try to make their own people. You know what I'm saying? Their own creation. Set up their own churches. But set up their own kingdoms against the Lord, against Almighty. And they how can they do that? They have to target what's already the kingdom. How can they alienate us, force us into assimilation, right? Make us obsolete by us giving up our own identities, right? It's like, I don't know if this is a good example. Let's just say, where are there still kingdoms and monarchies? Like Great Britain, right? Africa, some of them European countries and stuff like that, where they still have monarchies, right? Now, if someone try to make that obsolete, they try to go in there and try to convince them that they're not the kings and queens or the leaders of their own land, and they need to conform to some foreigner. You know what I'm saying? Now, yeah, that might not be a good example, but America is still connected with Britain. It's in political and family ways, but because they didn't exactly agree on certain things having to do with church and state or whatever, they didn't just war with them necessarily. They left them and started their own country, their own nation, which is kind of, the long history and story about our combative dang nation and all the dang conflicts we've endured and going through to form what we call America, the nation of freedom and independence. But yet, we're multicultural. You know what I'm saying? We have some definitive foundations and bases, but yet we're still, what sets us apart is we're so multicultural and accepting and trying to accept and blend other cultures with our own, right? Whereas others are not so much. But the thing about that is, these things are constantly are at war with us because they want to be able to claim us by any means necessary, by claim us so they can enslave us. It's like viruses, like I said, or like some company, some so-called bigger company or some different company trying to merge with another company, and the company doesn't want to merge, so they try to do some type of hostile takeover, the intimidation, or through money, or through some other thing, but force you to comply with them against your will, right? Or seduce you to comply with them through messing with your body. You know what I'm saying? Or appealing to them some other type of way, like some mom and pop shop, some big company wants the mom and pop's land, a company, and they offer them so many $1 million to give up their land, give up their property and their business. And because normally they wouldn't want to do that, but yet they offer them so much amount of money, they decide, they're going to go and do it. Or they offer them a bunch of money and they refuse, so then they try to intimidate them, force them out of it, right? Through blocking out their business, through their customers, alienating their customers and stuff like that, crowding their sabotage, defamation stuff, trying to talk crap about them and sabotage their products or some other type of stuff. Malicious PR campaigns. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like, again, what this This stuff is with these intrusive thoughts, with these demonic dream manipulations, with these harassments, that sometimes go real overboard, with the game stalking stuff. They may start off, subtle, and then they may grow real direct. But again, it may become real direct when, again, you're not standing up for yourself. And God will allow it. Right? You be like, well, dang, why is this happening? Does it mean that God isn't for me anymore? God isn't for my family anymore? Maybe because you're not standing up how you're supposed to be standing up. You think you are, but yet you're not. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's about he's allowing these things to come against you so you can stand. So you have the motivation, the intention, the desire, the right motivation, the right type of indignation to want to stand up against these things that are truly evil. Not something just, messing with you, irritating you, but really trying to tear you down and destroy you. And you not just be some Gumby, some leaf in the wind. They can, or some tumbleweed that they can just blow on, and it just goes whatever way. That you actually, hold up. No, you're not going to take this or this or that. You're going to stand up for yourself. You're going to stand up for your family. Right? So it actually betters your family, or actually betters a company, or betters the community that you live in, because you're actually taking a stand that's necessary, that's relevant. It's that time. You've been called out. Right? So he's allowing you to go toe to toe with certain things so that you can do that. And if you don't do that, you'll be destroyed. So he wins either way. That seems vicious, but it's like, it's a kind of like a catch-22. You claim to be for the Lord and decide to go against the Lord, and all of a sudden, what it talks about in Jeremiah 1:17, He's constantly trying to encourage us, right? And give us the knowledge, give us the support, give us the faith, give us the love, even with these adversities allowing against us. And we still cower down because we just want these things to go away and stop. He said he'll allow these things to overcome us, but he'll still win out, because then we'll be destroyed with them. It's like, I guess an example of that, when I was talking about, what did I say? Kicking the hornet's nest, the covering, and the HoneyPots. Right? Let's look at Samson. Samson was supposed to be like a covering. It was talking about in Judges, right? Was it Judges 16, 15, 14, 16, something like that? He was a Nazarite. He was supposed to live a specific, holistic lifestyle. He was called to it. He was raised from it. He was anointed for it from the time he was a baby. He was an infant. But yet, somehow, for some reason, he had a weakness for prostitutes. Prostitutes. That's a specific type of woman. It's not a woman, but a specific type of woman that chooses to live, or by force lives, a certain type of lifestyle that is completely sinful and in slavery. But yet he had a weakness, a common weakness, a repeated weakness. He had to go out his way to encounter women like that. They didn't just throw themselves at him. He went out his way to them. So he had to step off the path that God called him to even encounter these women. Right? But he was supposed to be a covering, a judge, a counselor for the people. Right? And yet he was, to a certain extent, but somehow he still managed to get caught up with these prostitutes. He for some reason, he couldn't avoid them, or chose not to avoid them. right? And then one in particular was Delilah, right? Her name was Delilah. He supposedly, according to the Bible, he was in love with Delilah. But yet, she was blatant in her intentions. She was blatant. She was obvious. She's so hell-bent and focused on wanting to know how he could be killed. Who's so focused on that? And that just goes over his head. It goes over his head that this woman, as much as he's with her, is focused on how to kill him. That's what she wants to know the most. That's the secret she's hell-bent on. I want to know how to kill him. And in every attempt, right, that she thinks she's figured out how he can die and be murdered, right, there's men on her team hiding in the room that they just had relations in. Hiding out in the room, waiting till they're done what they do. To pounce on him, to kill him, to capture him. Each and every time. Right? But right there. Like, how does he just go back into that? Right? This shows again that, unlike Jesus, even the supposed most powerful people, whether they male or female, can fall into weakness through manipulation, through seduction, through being blinded by sin, through infatuation. Right? He thought, and he was so conceited. He thought maybe he was so invincible and powerful that, this would be nothing to him. Right? That he just laughed it off. But yet, when he wanted his vengeance, right? And he prayed to God for his vengeance, and God allowed it to him, but yet he didn't pray to overcome. He just prayed to have vengeance, to take them out. He just wanted to die with them. He wanted to take those people out, but he didn't pray to overcome. Be like, oh, I would think, I pray like, can these people be taken out? Can we take them out or something like that? But I don't want to die with them. I want to be separated from that. Just like for goodness sake, Lot and his family and his daughters. I don't want to die with them. Oh, Lord, please separate me from this. If they refuse to repent, please pull me out or help me leave. Don't let me go out with them. Don't let my family, my children, my sons, my daughters, my nieces, my nephews, my brother, my sister, my mother, my family, neighbors who truly love you and seek you. Don't let them go out with these people who truly want to be evil and grimy. Oh, let us have our vindication, our day of vindication and vengeance, but don't let us just go out with them. The heck? That's what Jesus came for, though. That's what Jesus already offered us for, right? So we have to remember, right, that we're in these trials not to just go out in the flame. We're not just waiting to burn out, right? We have an assurance, one, because of Jesus, and two, because of the faith he put in us. But that shouldn't make us conceited. That doesn't make it easy. That doesn't make it simple. Because these things are working so hard to try to cause us to forget. Because again, that's their agency. To try to cause us to forget. Right? And the irony is that we're called to forgive sin and forget sin, not keep records of it when people have confessed them and repented from them and live in repentance of them. Unlike the enemy who constantly wants to try to have a foothold in our lives, in our brains, in our bodies, constantly wants to be the forefront. He wants to be the figment, the preoccupation of our imaginations. You know what I'm saying? Wants us to idolize them or idolize ourselves. Now, that's the saturation of that. That's the fire of that. That's the media saturation. Some people are desensitized by that. They've grown desensitized because they become so cold and callous that it don't mean nothing to them, nothing either way anymore, right? Because they can't recognize the gravity of it because they've been numbed out. They've seen too much of it. It's like a baby being exposed to curse words 24/7, and then the curse words aren't nothing to them no more. It's like a priest being exposed to death and murder and sin, and to where he's become so numb and cold that he won't even pray, or he can't even be a priest anymore because they've burnt him out. He ran into burnout. He forgot that he had reserve. He put too much confidence in these things. He was reliant on just the visual. He's just dependent on the senses, right? That's why these things play with our senses so much. They're trying to wear us out. It talks about that. And the Bible said, seek to wear out the saints. They're trying to wear us out through our senses. And the most common thing is to saturation, overwhelm us with constant bombardment of things, right? But the thing about it is, that's when he doesn't remove the thorn, because you're supposed to be pushing through it. But think about that. If you're the eye, or you're the target, right? Everything is surrounding you. Where really is the power? Who really has the power? It's the prisoner, right? The so-called prisoner, whose ability to reconcile and redeem and be released and be forgiven. The so-called hostage that they're trying to take hold of, right? It's a word I've been looking at recently. It's called HoneyPot, right? It has several different negative connotations to it. It's kind of like what Delilah was, right? She was an agent of death, where Samson was supposed to be an agent of justice, right? She was, kind of like counteracting him. But she was used to like scope him out, like for reconnaissance and stuff. Learn about, all his strengths and his weaknesses, and about the weaknesses and strengths of the people, so they could have a straight up insider on how they can take out the Hebrews, right? She was given 5,500 shekels. The kings, there was five kings of the Philistines. They each gave her 1,100 shekels to go to Samson, seduce him repeatedly, and try to get him to confess on how he could be killed. They wanted to know his coup de grace, how he can die. They wanted to know his Achilles heel, how they can take him out. That was her sole mission, and she wasn't even subtle about it. She was direct, blatant. But looking at that in that abstract, okay, if God is allowing us, right, to be like some tube, some TV, some router, some dang some deer with his eyes in the headlight, something like that, right? Or like it's supposed to be like open season for us and stuff like that. Think about that for a minute. Like, what advantage does the Lord have? If he's allowing us to be open targets, what the heck advantage does that give the kingdom of God? First, we gotta recognize, hold up, what's the kingdom of God? All the arsenal belongs to him, right? But if these things are trying to psych us out of our authority, again, our powers, again, knowing who we are, being firm in who we are, right? And these things are actually the ones who forgot who they are. So we're like the honeypots. They're after our blood. They're after our soul. They're after our families. They're after our minds. So if these things are allowed to somewhat do some type of infiltration, right? We're actually getting more insight into them than they are into us, right? Especially if God is hardening them and encouraging us in faith at the same time. He's hardening them. They feel they're so hard. They want to keep going in what they think they're going in and yet not doing crap. So like, right? But yet, he's still steady encouraging us, trying to encourage us to seek him and exercise our faith and do what's right, not be overcome by evil, as it talks about in Romans 12:19. Leave room for the wrath of God. Do not take it on our own hands. Do not choose any of their ways. Do not grow weary. Don't try to cast lots for their clothes. Don't do what they do. Don't put on costumes to see, well, let me try to play them since they want to try to play me. No. Our power is remaining his children, knowing that we're children, exercising that, right? But yet, we become the honeypots because these things think that they've psyched us out. So, therefore, we become the, what the heck? What is that? Aquarium? Anthill? What's that anthill there's the anthill thing in a glass, and then you see all the little tunnels. You see the whole maze, and then you be like, dang, all I gotta do is pour some hot wax on there. Or some boiling hot water. Or some hot mercury or whatever. And then like, ooh. And then it just freezes up and gets hard. And then you just pull it out like, ooh, look. That got me a nice little sculpture. I'm just saying, I'm not actually grimy like that. I've actually seen that, and I was just like, oh, dang, that's vicious. But I mean, why are they trying to go in on you? They become an open source. Like, why are they trying to go in on you? They give up their position. And like, what did they give up to try to put you on? What did they give up to try to put on the image of your child? The image of your mother, your father, your nieces, your nephew, or somebody else you care about. What did they give up to try to put you on? What did they wage to try to win you over or snuff you out? What did they give up? What did they exchange when they trying to convince you that you have nothing to offer, or that you're worthless, or trying to, like I said, psych you out with some stuff about you that's not even relevant, other than the fact that, you've recovered from it, or you're seeking to recover from it. You're not making excuses for it. You're not trying to remain in it. That doesn't even compare to the level of occultic or cult-like, or just like grime that they're trying to go to. And again, this is an agency. These are not actual human beings. They're demonic entities, right? But they don't want you to feel they're exactly demonic because, they're people who want to have power and sway on you. They know if you're not afraid of demons, you might be afraid of people. God doesn't call us to be afraid of anybody but him. And what do we have to be afraid of if we're seeking righteousness and justice, if we're humbling ourselves? It's like seeing cops and you just run into the other side of the street. so, like, what the heck? Because you swear them cops are just going to do something to you. Like, really? I'm like, why are not two sick grimy, evil, malicious people who plot the most evil of stuff. Why are they not afraid? But yet you run to the other side, you get all shook up in a spirit or whatever, or tremble just because you see a so-called cop. What have they done to condition your mind? That you might be afraid of some random person that you just might saw on the TV or dream, but because they keep projecting so-and-so and so-and-so in your head, now all of a sudden you have a false fear, a false anxiety, a false paranoia of so-and-so and so-and-so, or of this or that. That's not valid. That's not based on reality. That's not based on those actual people or what you're trying to do. Now, if those people or whoever actually acts out a character, again, you have to just see it for what it is. It could be an act, or it could truly be demonic. But what are you doing? How are you responding to it, right? So to tie this up, I didn't actually go into everything that I was going to go to, but I'll say that for the next video, right? When God does not remove the thorn, right, it's because he wants you to take a stand. He wants you to contend for the faith. Contend for your family members the best you can. In your faith, exercising your faith, standing up for what's right. Don't cower down to these caricatures, to these hosts, these so-called avatars. Don't cower down to these wannabe actors. These so-called agents, right? Some people just want attention for whatever reason, but none of that matters. God is looking at you. He's definitely looking at them too, right? But if he's allowing it to come against you, it's for a particular purpose. What are you called to do? Why is he allowing it? What is he doing that for? And you don't want to just give into it, because what? God's going to win regardless, right? He will allow you. What does his word say? Jeremiah 17, if you become afraid of their hostile faces, for he will allow you to be overcome. He's talking about either in a dream or in reality. What reason do we have to be afraid of demons? I'd be put more feel some type of way about an angel come at me, because I know they're good and righteous, and I want to live good and righteous. But that's something I'd be concerned about. Like, ooh, I know the angel got power because God gave them. They could just take me out like that. Demons, all they really want is you to be like them. They can't really take anything out. They can only try to contaminate. In reality, they can only try to infest. You know what I mean? Infest. They can't really take you out. They can only try to infest you, contaminate you. They're contagions. And they're trying to use us as contagions. Right? Can't really do anything to you except make you like them. Think about that, right? If they really were about justice, they wouldn't stoop to the levels that they stoop to. If they were truly human, they would never do such things. So they're under the influence. It doesn't mean, ooh, go strike some person or try to take someone out because you think they're demonically possessed. It could be your child. Could be your husband. Could be your mother, your sister. We're not called to just go strike them out and take them out. We're called to pray for them. Right? Just as we pray for ourselves, because that's what he said. That's the most important part of it. Pivotal part of it. It can be any of us. Any of us can be brought down. No matter how strong or how much valor or might or echelon we think we have, we can all be brought down through some sort of way. The only one that met everything was Jesus. And they're still trying to distort his character and who he is. They're still trying to compare him to angels like Michael. Jesus is not Michael. So, they're still trying to compare him to Lucifer. Jesus is not Lucifer. Or Peter. Or Paul. Right? Or Mary. She wasn't on the cross. Jesus was. Are still trying to distort who he is, so that if they're able to do that, then we lose our foundation. We lose our concrete and who we are, our identity. We lose our confidence, our hope. He is an anchor for our soul, a firm foundation. When he comes up, we come up. So when he goes down, we go down. When it says, the Lord himself will descend with the sound of a trumpet of an archangel, right? And talks about the dead in Christ will rise first. When he comes up, we come up. When he goes down, we go down. If we're in him, if our faith is in him. If he hasn't removed the thorn, that is to remind us of the responsibilities that we're supposed to carry and uplift with him and persevere through. Remember, there was a crown of thorns put on his head. When he doesn't remove the thorn, that means he's put responsibility on us. We can't just throw it down and shove it off on somewhere else. We have our own individual responsibilities that we might not fully realize and define at the time, but God knows what they are. So if he doesn't just remove something or take it out of the way, it's because he wants us to fight. He wants us to stand, not just fight with our own ego, not fight with our body, as if our body can compare to the spirit, not fight with sorcery and voodoo and games and stuff like that. That's not going to do nothing for the devil. That's not going to do nothing for God. That's just foolery. Right? Just ignoring some things is not going to do anything either. Because then they seek you out all the more. And they're still not tired. They want all the attention you can possibly give them because they want to be idolized. The only thing we can do is stand firm on what he's calling us to be. Lift up our crowns. Lift up your shoulders. Lift your head up. Lift your wombs up. Lift your babies up. Lift your families up. Again, these things can, like I said, they can take on anything. Our children can be honeypots. Our friends, our family members can be honeypots. Right? Some random stranger can be a honeypot. But what is supposed to be the covering? A honeypot can be good or bad, depending on what that honeypot is serving. And remember, the honeypot ultimately is that epicenter, that most central piece. What are they after? They want the soul. They want the seat of the soul. They want the seat of the heart, the seat of the mind. They want that medium, that media, that tube. Right? They want to be the forefront of your damn TV and radio screen. Whether it's toxic, so-called toxic, or positive. Right? It's about control. And who we going to get control over? It's not a tug of war. It may seem that way, but it's not a tug of war. That anchor is the Lord. When we come up, what are we coming up for? Or letting things get a rise out of us. Or we just bowing down and cower down because we feel intimidated or aggravated or whatever the hell. So we cower down or go away or do this or this or that. Right? When the Lord comes up, we need to be ready to come up. When the Lord goes down, and I'm talking about down, I'm talking about descending down. We need to be down with him. Whether that be on our knees in prayer or down with him in the field. fighting and snatching up our family. We can't let these things do their best and trying to wear out our hearts and minds. I speak most intimately from experience because I see the influence on these things, how they try to influence me, how they try to influence my kids. I mean, I'm like, the worst is when it's my own family. Other people are like, ooh, I gotta ignore that or walk away from that. That's aggravating, but it's heart-wrenching when it's yourself or your own family. But again, it reminds you of your weakness. You're not God. You're not something that needs to be idolized or could be or should be idolized. If you can be destroyed, why the hell would you be somebody's God? If someone can get to you like that, what kind of God can you be? Right? It keeps you humble. It keeps proper perspective on other people. Hold up. They're people. They're creation. Right? If they're trying to perpetrate as some cartoon, some comic, oh, like, they have no real value because they can be anything. I don't want to worship somebody that can just be anything. I don't want to admire or love somebody that will just be anything, that can just be pushed here or there, that I can just manipulate. I want my people to have backbone. I want my people to have heart. I want my people to have their own mind and spirit. I want to worship my Lord because I know He's firm in who He is. You can't just push Him around. Now, yes, He has our back. He allows us to go through some stuff because He wants us to be better. Right? And that His commandments are worth more than gold, are worth more than honey from the honeycomb. Right? They're all that. And with that, God bless.